Welcome everyone to this presentation, Financial Independence and the Quality Professional. I'm Mike Richmond, your host for Exemplar Global's Excellence in Auditing Expo 2024. This session is presented by Ray Chowdhury, and Ray is a certified lead auditor for ISO 9001 and ISO 27001 and holds 5 certifications from ASQ. In this presentation, Ray is going to offer us the benefits of his experience to offer some practical advice for you getting the most out of your career as an auditor. So Ray, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you for the nice introduction. I really appreciate the opportunity to share with our viewers, my journey on how I became financially independent. And I think this is of very important significance to every quality professional, not just the auditor, but everyone. So I will be touching on the auditor. I will also be touching on the other quality professionals during my presentation. Okay, and all right, so let's talk about what we are going to cover in brief. So I'm going to talk about the situation that most quality professionals are in, and of course the auditors as well. We will take a look at the work life. We will take a look at their financial situation. We will take a look at what is going on with regard to their income and retirement. What is the status they are in. Along the way, I have collected a very good solid pool of data that I will be presenting to you. We will take a look at some causal analysis as to why they are where they are, and then we will talk about what they can do. And this most important part of what they can do to improve going forward is based on several interviews I have done over the last 20, 30 years, and it is also based on my personal journey. So I will be sharing what I did. At that time, when I was doing this, the amount of data available was very, very sparse. The internet was not there or barely coming along. So I had to do a lot of legwork. But now I have taken all of that learning and slotted it with today's data. So whatever I'm presenting is very current with regard to today's situation. The only thing is my experiences are from that time. And the data that I dug up at that time was done through long hours in the library and a lot of legwork and a lot of interviews. So anyway, and then we will finally get into acknowledgements. I will acknowledge the people who I interviewed for this particular session. And I have several interviews, but I will acknowledge just a few. And then we can talk about Q&A. We can talk about it now, or we can talk about it in between. Either way. And I'll share a little bit of my background with you towards the end. How did all of this transpire? Okay, so I'll give you a historical perspective, but we will wait for that to the end. Let's get started then. What is the life of a quality professional? What happens with them? What do they do? Most of you probably know this already. They are many times they are the gatekeepers. Many times they are blamed for holding up work, not letting things proceed, creating non-conformances and putting things in quarantine or holding up delivery of materials. These are the typical things that unfortunately they are blamed for holding up. Are they doing it for the wrong reason? Not at all. They are doing it for the right reason. But they are viewed as either the police or other obstacles in the work process. They work hard, work as hard or sometimes harder than some of the other professionals. And yet they don't get the recognition and they don't get the financial reward for it. They are forgotten because things go okay. Only when things go wrong do they end up getting the blame, or the magnifying glass comes and focuses on them. What a situation to be in. At the end of the day, they are a passionate bunch, and their focus is to make things better. Make things better for the company, make things better for everybody around, and make things better for society. So this is what a quality professional is about. Whether you are a QE, QA, or a manager, but essentially that's what you are about. This is what many quality professionals have told me, and some of it I have experienced myself. One of my friends from Salt Lake City in Utah, he got laid off. And when I sat down and talked to him, he said, I was told my job is secure. The next day when I went to work, I was laid off. Just think about it. If you have a family of 4 and all of a sudden this is what happens to you, it can be devastating. Another one. The second one actually is during an interview. One person was interviewing for a new job. In the interview, they were presented a scenario. We have got discrepant material. We have got to ship it. What are you going to do? There is a high pressure from salespeople that this material needs to get to the customer. He gave them the standard answer, which is typical. Initially we will quarantine it and then we will do X, Y, and Z. Well, the word quarantine actually set off a trigger. And the interviewer told him that you are going to be a roadblock. I'm not sure that if you are even suited for this job. Needless to say, the interview went nowhere. People have families. They have got obligations. One person told me, a bit of me dies every day I go to work. But I have to work because I have a family to support. In another case, one of the senior managers told me, I am in frequent conflict between doing the right thing and cutting corners due to pressures, various kinds of pressures coming from different departments, coming from different people at different levels in the organization. Cutting corners, is that a good idea? What happened to Boeing? What happened to J&J? J&J actually has just gone under consent decree with regard to their CPAP machines or BiPAP machines for foam coming off. My goodness, I mean, what is going on? And the story of Boeing is very widespread. We all know that. It used to be a company that was totally believable from a safety and quality standpoint. Something changed. But regardless of all of that, where do we stand when it comes to finances? All of those are pressures, and there are other pressures which we will talk about as well. But how do we stand in terms of getting rewarded, facing all those pressures and dealing with all those stresses? How do we get compensated? Do we or do we not? Let's take a walk down 15 years of data and what that data is telling us. So this data comes from a website of Zippia. All the links are given to you. Should you feel like checking those out, be my guest. Based on the information from Zippia, and this is the most current information I could find, so that's what I'm sharing with you. In 2009, the salary of a quality auditor was 55,000. In 2024, it is 77,000. Wow, that looks like a pretty decent jump. But when you factor in inflation, where do we really stand? So the salary went up 1.4x, and you need 1.4x the dollars today compared to 2009. So essentially, did we really make any progress, or are we just running around in a wheel going nowhere? That is the state of affairs. Okay, here is some more. 48% of the quality auditors think that their salary is just barely adequate. What about the other professionals? And this information comes to you from Indeed.com, and the link is there also. Quality assurance analyst, 54K. Can even one person survive on these kinds of salaries? Just think about it. If not paycheck to paycheck, what is this? Quality manager, 93K. These are averages across the country. So there will be some regional differences, but then those regional differences don't add up to a whole lot, because the salaries in those expensive regions are higher. At the same time, the cost of living is higher too. So it really doesn't take you much further. Quality assurance inspector, 42K. Quality coordinator, 52K. What is this? What is this? Despite all the pressures and all the stresses that we have to live with. So where do the quality professionals really stand? Most of them told me that their reserves will not even be sufficient for 3 months. Many of them are living paycheck to paycheck. If the incoming funds, the salary gets cut off because of a layoff or whatever, they have to immediately go on workman's comp or whatever the system might give them. I have not done a job for the last 20 plus years, so I don't know all the details of the current system, but there are some support systems there. And if you are paycheck to paycheck, you are in dire straits at that point. And those payments do not match your salary. They are X% of your salary. Only some senior managers, leaders, executives who are at a very high income level or a very high salary level, they said that some of them, not all of them, we might be able to last 1 year before I have to dip into my retirement savings. But what about the others, which are like 90% of the quality professionals? They are in the first two categories. Reserves won't even last 3 months, or we are living paycheck to paycheck. This is where they stand financially. Think about it. That is income. What about retirement? Some of you might think, hey, retirement is a far away thing. No, 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 no. It's not that far away as you think. It'll be here before, it'll be here before you can even imagine. Time flies. Look at what they said. I will have to work after retirement. This is the statement from all the people that I interviewed at QE level and lower ranks. All of them. And I have interviewed dozens and dozens and dozens of people across the country. I will have to work after retirement. This was the statement from about 30% of the people who are today well off. In other words, they are senior QE, manager, senior manager, director, VP. Even in that case, 30% of the will not have to work. 30% is what they said. 70% will have to work after retirement. Is this a good situation to be in? Believe it or not, I was in a similar situation. And I'll tell you that story a little later towards the end of the presentation. So bear with me. What does all this do? You have got workplace conflicts, you have got income issues, you have got pressures because of family, you have got retirement things to take care of. And on top of that, the job stability is not there. This is the predicament that we find ourselves under. Most quality professionals, most of them, I would say about 90% of them completely agree with that kind of a scenario. And it is reality. So we need to start, and we need to start now. Doing what? We need to start taking charge of our financial career and our life. Our life, actually, if I can use this metaphor of a three-legged stool, there are three important legs to our life. One is your social and family, the other is your health, and the third is the financial well-being. If the other two legs are strong, which is social and family, but the financial leg is not strong, this tool is going to be very, very unstable. And eventually it starts affecting the other two legs also. So we have got to pay attention to our financial well-being. And ideally speaking, we have got to become financially independent. Hopefully, with what I share with you, you will find that journey a little easier. Now, being quality professionals, we want to investigate, we do want to do root cause analysis if there is a single root, or we want to at least understand what are the causes of where we are. Why is it that we are not keeping up with inflation? Why is it that we are not in a position to have a comfortable retirement? Why is it that I have only 3 months of savings that I can survive on? So I took the why technique and I added some more to it. If you ask why enough number of times, you will almost end up at the footsteps of God. That's not what we are trying to do. 5 whys is a very famous technique. Most of you have seen it. I have modified that and added points where you have a systemic shift. And let me walk you through this, how to use this, if you like. Why are we not prepared? That's the first why. And the answer to that is because our employer used to take care of us. There were pension plans, there were 401k plans. 401k plans are still around, but the amount of contributions to the 401k plans are steadily decreasing. So many employers are not contributing a whole lot to the employees' retirement plans. Not all of them, some of them are doing it, but not all of them. So it has not become systemic yet. So why do our employers begin to throttle back on the contribution that they are giving? The answer to that is that the business landscape has changed. And the business landscape has changed in a very severe manner. There is high competition, the cost cutting is the norm, margins are under pressure. And if we ask the question why, well, the rest of the world is catching up. The number of engineers from India and China far outweigh the number of engineers in the US. India and China are catching up big time, and so are other countries. India is going to be the world's third largest economy in just a matter of a couple of years from now. And who knows where it will go next. Nothing to sound an alarm or whatever, but the thing is, those are the facts. Now that is a systemic shift. Those two are systemic shifts. Why do India and China want to come up the ladder? Well, more and more people want a better quality of life. Can you change that? Can you challenge them on that? Can you tell them, no, you can't have a better life? No, you can't. Again, that is the whole systemic shift. It's a part of the systemic shift that is happening. So what should I do? Should I just throw up my hands and say, okay, it is what it is, and I won't do anything? That's not the best option, is it? Okay, so let's go down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and take a look at where the systemic shift started to happen. On bullet number 3 is the first time when you see the systemic shift showing up. See the brackets in SS at the end of that bullet. So there I start asking the question, what can I do about this? So what can I do about the business landscape changing? Aha, you can hardly do anything. As a quality professional, you can hardly do anything. Let me inch up to the next level above that. Number 2, our employer used to take care of us and contribute quite a bit. They are not doing that anymore. Can I do something about that? Yeah, maybe I can start creating my own financial plan and putting some things in place so that I don't find myself in bad shape. Aha. So that is where we'll have to start. So that is the 5 whys technique coupled with systemic shift and asking the what. I trust you will find that useful. You will see that I'm building in quality tools, and this is what I was doing for quite some time. So I'm sharing that with you at this point. Going back to how I looked at those things, and so from here forward, I'll be sharing with you many of the things that I have done in my life. So I formulated 2 strategies. One was near term, and the other was longer term. The near-term strategy was aimed at stabilizing my cash flow, stabilizing my income, and start building reserves. The reserves are very important. DWT, that acronym stands for dry well time. Dry well time. What does that mean? Dry well time is the number of months or years that I can survive with my current spending rate if my income goes to 0. In other words, if I lose a job tomorrow, I have no income coming in and the expenses are where they are, how long can I last? So in the near term strategy, that was one of the first things I wanted to accomplish, which I did. This is way back when. I'll tell you more about that, like I said, towards the end of the presentation. In the longer term strategy, I started visualizing where do I want to be? What will the future look like at a particular age Y, whatever that age is. It could be 50, 70, 80, whatever. And then I did that because I got a wake-up call. And I'll tell you more about the wake-up call also, just bear with me. So the strategy for the long term I formulated is that I want 3 independent streams of income. Before I hit Social Security, I want 3 independent streams of income. And I want to be financially independent in a certain number of years from now. X years from now, I want to be financially independent. My income and net worth need to be in the top 20%, and the dry well time anticipated based on the time on the planet, based on my expected life expectancy, I want to be, the dry well time is what I want to be beyond my time on the planet. In other words, my reserves should last beyond my life expectancy after X years. So those are the broad strategies that I put in place. In a way, these are KPIs also. A strategy without a KPI is meaningless. But also a strategy without tactics, without execution, is a pipe dream. It's not going to happen. So you need strategy and you need tactics also. And if all you have is tactics, which is day-to-day living, without a strategy, you are like a ship. You don't know where you are going. You don't have a compass. So both are important: strategy, tactics, and then finally, all of that supported by KPIs, proper KPIs. That's what I started putting in place. This, by the way, happened in the mid-90s. So set up sound KPIs, but do not forget the time factor. If you look at what has happened in the last 50 years, the buying power of $1 has gone completely kaput. What you could buy for $1 in 1968, today you need $7.22 to buy the same thing. So there is a 622% change in the money you require to survive compared to, over the last 50 years, give or take. Those are important numbers to keep in mind. So these are the numbers from today. When I was formulating this strategy, I had to dig up those numbers, and those numbers were very different. But I have to present to you where are we today? So I converted some of those to today's context, and these numbers are based on today. So in the near term, what were the KPIs that I had set up? I had set up the KPI of dry well time, my income and spend. I was monitoring that very carefully. My liquid assets, what is my debt, short-term debt, which is credit cards and other short-term debt, car loans, this, that, and the other. In the longer term, what will be my net worth? How will the net worth grow? What are my insurance needs? How will I cover the debt? What risk factors can I cover with my insurance? So those are the types of KPIs I set up way back when. This list is not meant to be completely universal. This was just the list that I was creating at that time. And I was beginning to monitor that over the period following the implementation or the execution of this plan, the start of the execution. So I started monitoring all of this, because if you don't monitor, you don't know where you stand. Are you progressing? Are you regressing? Are my savings working out okay? And of course, I had a family with 2 kids. And my elderly mother was with me at that time. And my salary was just in the midpoint of every other quality manager's salary. I was not a quality manager, but a similar position. Anyway, so the execution of the strategy is key. Using the right KPIs is the key. And then now you start looking at options. What can I do? I listed several options. So I could do contracting on the side. I could put money in CDs or treasuries. I could start a small business or a franchise. I could join startups. So there were several options. Always you will have options. In today's world, there is even more options. So these are the options I started looking at. But you can't try all of them. You don't have, you don't have enough time to try all of them. So how do you decide which paths to explore and which to pursue further? We have to narrow the list down so that we can try a few of them and then find out which works, which suits me, which suits you. So you have to narrow that down. How did I narrow that down? I used quality tools and other techniques. Quality tools was not the only one, but that was a very important factor that I used. And among the quality tools, I started auditing some of these options to see what is the likely outcome. I also used weighted ranking matrices, which I will show you. And then I started creating some standards with regard to how I'm going to manage my investments. So some of these quality tools I started using heavily, the other ones I used as and when needed. But these are the types of quality tools that can become very useful and helpful on your journey as you start examining the options available and start narrowing down your choices. As a quality professional, you should know all these tools. If not, please read up on it and get up to speed. And if any of you are really interested in using more of my guidance, I'll be happy to guide you. Because I do want to make sure that the quality professional who does so much good work eventually doesn't have to be in a bad predicament. What do we do after that? So after that, we set up some requirements and criteria to narrow down further and then arrive at 2 or 3 choices that we can work. Now, what are the criteria? What goes in the checklist? As I look at these different options, what goes into the checklist? So let us say from the 11 or 12, I have narrowed down to 3 or 4. I need proper criteria to further narrow it down. Attempting 4 or 5 different things in a short period of time is very difficult. The ones you are seeing highlighted are the ones I actually attempted. It took me a long time and a lot of sleepless nights to winnow some of these. But I'm sharing that with you so you don't have to spend so much time and effort. Okay, so in the requirements and criteria, what was the criteria I was using? Now you can develop your own set of criteria, but this is just the criteria that I was using. How much is the initial capital requirement? I didn't have tons of money. I didn't have millions of dollars to start a business. I didn't have millions of dollars to start a company. I did not. So initial capital requirement, what will it take for me to get started? That was one very important criteria. The second criteria was how much debt will I have to take on? If I have to take on a lot of debt, then I have to start making those payments. And interest rates were very high at that time. We complain today, interest rates are 5, 6, 7%. Interest rates used to be 12, 14, 18% at one time. How am I going to make those payments on a limited income? I can't. I didn't have reserves to leave my job and start something. So those 2 criteria became very, very important. And the third thing was how much ongoing monitoring, maintenance, and expenses are required. So anyway, so from those criteria, you can list your own, and then you can use those criteria to find out what will work and what not. So I narrowed it down. I narrowed down the criteria and the constraints to just a few so that this was all manageable. What is the initial capital required? What is the amount of time I have to spend in maintenance and monitoring of whatever thing I'm going to start? What is the liquidity? If I need money, can I liquidate everything and create cash out of it? If you start a business, if you buy real estate, for example, the liquidity is going to be very low. You can't sell your business overnight. Nobody, or you will have to sell it for 10 cents on the dollar or even less. Real estate is the same way. You can't liquidate very quickly. With stocks, I can liquidate anytime. With one button, I can liquidate all my stocks. I may not like the price I get or whatever, but the ease of liquidity is very, very good when it comes to stocks, when it comes to bonds, and all of that. So liquidity was an important factor for me. Another one was, if I stick to it, how much is the potential gain or loss I may experience? So that was a very important criteria. And the final conclusion was that I am probably best off, I'm probably better off investing in stocks and treasuries. So this S&P graph that you are looking at, that goes from all the way from the 1970s to today. My concern was what happens with the ups and downs. I had heard horror stories about people losing their shirt in the stock market. So I took it upon myself to investigate quite a bit and study it. This graph is not new. A similar graph was there at that time also. And that gave me the confidence that, well, if I'm going to distribute my risk and not buy just one single stock, if I distribute my risk, the chances of my investment going to zero are almost none. Anyway, so between stocks, between gold, between T-bonds, between T-bills, T is for treasuries, which is a better option? So now that became the question. So to answer that question, what I did was I created a weighted scoring matrix. By the way, this data that you are seeing is in today's context. I was doing this in the mid 90s to the late 90s. By the time the late 90s came around, all that analysis and learning and all of that was done. But I've taken that and slotted it with today's data. So what you are seeing here is current. Okay. Then I use the weighted scoring matrix to identify which is the number one or number two option. So here I allotted scores. The scores are given in these cells over here. In these cells, these are the scores, and the importance of each criteria is listed here. Growth of capital was very important to me. Capital preservation, I was not that concerned about it. So the importance was 3 on a scale of 1 to 10. And liquidity, I was not that concerned about because all these 4 options had high liquidity to begin with. So the liquidity score importance was kept at 1. Capital preservation was kept at 3. And growth was extremely important because I had if you remember the slide from the strategic plan, I had a certain target that I wanted to achieve X years from that time so that my retirement would be in good shape. So growth was extremely important. And these by default were not as risky from a capital preservation and liquidity standpoint. But still, I wanted to use a weighted matrix to find out which of those 4 are, are the most optimal. And of course, cash is another option. So let's take a look at that. From a growth standpoint, the stock market was the best one. From a capital preservation standpoint, there was some risk, but still the stock market was good. And from a liquidity standpoint, the stock market was not too bad, just one notch below cash. Because with one click, I can just get out of everything and I can liquidate, I can convert it into cash. So stocks came in at a weighted score of 80. How did I get 80? So 8 times 7 plus 5 times 3 plus 9 times 1. So that gives me a weighted score of 80. And the same technique was used to evaluate everything else. Gold, from a growth standpoint, gold was not as good. So why did gold get a number 6? Let me take you back for a second. If you look at this table and you look at the growth over 50 years, gold is ranked second after stocks. And then T-bills and T-bonds and then T-bills. And these numbers, by the way, which are sitting over here, that is what happens over 50 years to on a percentage basis to the amount you start with. So stocks returned 10,000 plus percent. Gold returned 1,000 something percent. And then T-bonds and T-bills were lower. And if you just kept in cash, cash doesn't multiply, but you will need 622% multiple of cash in 50 years compared to where you start. So as you can see here, stocks were the highest. And that is the information that was fed into this matrix. And as I explained to you, I created the weighted score for each of these options. So stocks was one, gold was the other, T-bonds and T-bills, and finally cash. Naturally, cash was going to be at the bottom. However, keep in mind that if some of these were going to be losing money propositions, then they may even have come below cash. Anyway, stocks was the most attractive and gold was the next most attractive. And that's what I ended up doing. Why am I discussing all this with you? You have to take charge of your future. Your companies are not going to be able to do that. I'm not blaming them. That is just the way the world is changing. And more of that change is coming. On top of that, now we have got distributed work, we have got remote work. There is a lot more change yet to come. AI is coming. Some of our jobs, actually, like it or not, are going to be taken over by AI. So unless we reskill ourselves, unless we certify, unless we keep learning, those changes are going to hit us, and they are going to hit us hard. We have to learn all the time. I'm doing it even now. In fact, this year I got 2 certifications, and there is one more certification I'm going to get this year. Do I have to work? No, I work because I really enjoy what I do. Use the plan, do, check, act cycle. Plan your future, execute on that, and keep checking how you are doing. How do you check? I'll give you a hint. And then if you are off track, act, take corrective action. Again, go back and plan, execute, keep checking. This is a self-correcting loop if you use it properly. If you ignore it, you'll just be like a ship without a rudder, without sails, and without compass. Where are you going to go? So you have to be the captain of your ship. There isn't any way around it. Okay, so let me show you how to do the check and what kinds of reference points, what kind of standards can you use to see where you stand and where you want to be. So let's go take a look at that. This table that you are seeing is comparing the net worth of an individual at different ages, okay, different ages, and the percentiles for each of those ages. Let me give you an explanation on how to use this table. And the source for this table is given here. I think the data comes from the Federal Reserve. So this website, whoever created this website, has used that data to create this table. And this table is current as of 2023. So if you are in your 40 to 40 year age group, and let us say you have saved up, X amount of money, where do you stand? So you start from here, 40 to 44. The median, which is the 50th percentile, is 134K, 135K. So if at age 40 to 44, you have more than 200K, let us say, then you are better than half of the population. Okay? If you have more than 435K or 437K, you are better than 75% of the population. If you have only 34,000, if you have only 20,000, let us say, then you are below the 25th percentile. So you are in the bottom 25% of the population. This is a great way to find out where do you really stand. There are other ways to use this table also. Let us say you are in the age group 25 to 29. And you have set your target that I want to be in the 75th percentile when I am age 50. Okay? So remember, you are here 25 years from now, you are saying that you want to be in the 75th percentile, or you want to be better than 90% of the people. So then you come here, you look at 50 to 59, and the 75th percentile is sitting right here, which means that you should have more than $1 million. By the time you factor in inflation, that number will be even bigger. You see what I'm getting at? You can't take these things lightly. You have got to take charge of your situation, and you have got to think about the future and factor in the inflation. 2%, 3%, 4%. It is there. You can't get away from it. Current inflation rates are running at between 4 to 5%. Will they be the same in the future? I have no idea. But this is what I was doing. I was using these kinds of guidelines and benchmarks to figure out where do I want to be. So this is the check part, which is extremely important because that can feed back If you find you are falling behind, you are not up to speed, you can go back to the P part, the plan, and modify your plan. And then find out what tactics and what strategies can you use going forward. I hope I have given you some ideas on how to think about these things, how to start taking charge. You can start small, don't get me wrong. I had zero savings at one time. You will see that in a minute. You will see that in a minute. And if I can do it, you should be able to do it as well. If I can do it, you can do it. Let me move forward. So, in summary, quality professionals are great contributors. You do great work. You have passion for doing the right thing. But your financial future is suboptimal. Believe me, I'm giving you a wake up call. I didn't get that wake up call unless it was a rude awakening, which happened to me in the mid 90s. It happened twice. Mid 90s was the one when I had to really wake up and think about all this. Most employers are not going to be able to keep up. That is just the way the world is going. You can and you should take charge. And using quality tools and techniques can help you, as I just demonstrated for you. Here are the words of wisdom from several people that I interviewed, and particularly these ones, they struck me. So I'm honoring them, I'm respecting them, I'm saying thanks to them, and I'm sharing with you what they told me. These interviews happened as I was preparing for this webinar. Otherwise, I have got more than, I think, 300 interviews worth of material that I can share in different sessions. And each of these persons is either a quality professional or a QARA person. And some of these actually are very high positioned people. Vincent Cafiso says, to improve your financial future, to do better, you want to engage with products and or create inventions if possible. And if possible, you should commercialize those. Sometimes you can sell your invention and get royalties. What the probability of that is? Well, that depends on the product, the nature of the industry you are in, and whatnot. That is his view. Have I done inventions? Yeah. Did I make money on inventions? No, because all the inventions I did went to the company that I was working for. Even the companies I started, the inventions that I had got sold with that company. Did I get royalties? No. It all depends on the agreements that you sign. Okay, but this can be a good path forward. It can be. Sunny Gill, he was lamenting that quality professionals don't have a plan, most of them. So have a plan and execute well. Santosh Bhagat, words of wisdom. Careful what you buy. You really want that $100,000 car? Really? I leave it up to you. Maybe you do, but that's your call. So think about the assets. Think about the things that you are going to buy. Are they going to appreciate or are they going to depreciate? He told me that when he bought that expensive car, I won't tell you the price, instead of that, he should have put money in real estate. Car is a depreciating asset. Anyway, but that was Santosh Bhagat. Have I invested in real estate? Yes, I have. Have I invested in gold? Yes, I have. I've done many of those things. Did I burn my fingers here and there? Of course I did. You are going to burn them too. But that shouldn't hold you back. Sugdara, build your credentials, get your certifications early. You know, interestingly enough, my first certification from it. After that, I went on to pick up 5 more. The most recent one was this year. Stay up with that because they add credibility and they will enable you to take the higher road. Get certified. Get certified from Exemplar Global. I have 3 certifications. All of those add up to a broad set of skills that prepare you for more employability, for more contracts, for more opportunities to set up your own consulting business. They add value. So don't shy away from them. Even if your company doesn't pay for it, you pay for it. Oh my God, the returns on that are so enormous. Many of the certifications, I just paid for it from my pocket. I didn't care if the company didn't support me. It's okay. Do it. Lean in. Again, golden words. Get a mentor. Get a mentor. Get more than one mentors if you can. Andrew Davison, keep learning and start saving early. Golden words. And there are many others which I can share, but with the time constraint and whatnot, I'll have to stop here. Before I come to Q&A, I would like to share with you my journey. I told you upfront that I will be sharing my journey with you. In 67, I lost my dad. We were in very, very bad shape. Anyway, I put myself through college in India. In 1978, as I was finishing up college, I created my first life plan. And in the first life plan was the dream to come to the US. I was in Mumbai, India, and my dream was to come to the US because I wanted to do work on solar energy. And I did come to the US, and I did start working on solar energy as part of my PhD program. Went to Arizona State, graduated from there with my master's. My PhD did not work out. It's a different story for another day, so I won't take up time on that. 1986, I got my first job. And also, it was the same year that I experienced total loss of savings. The first market crash was in October of 96. Whatever savings I had, they just evaporated because I was relying on a broker, and he just churned my money, and I was left with only about $270 out of $2,700 at that time, which I had saved up. That was my first wake-up call. Should I trust a broker? Should I trust a money manager? Maybe some of you have had good experiences, but it's my money. Why would somebody else have more pain about it than me? You can decide for yourself what works for you. So that was the time I said, no more. I'm going to educate myself. I'm going to learn. I'm going to study and take charge of my financial future. 1995, I got my second wake-up call. A 75-year-old woman came to our store. We had a store in a mall. We had several stores. And she was looking for work. I asked her, why are you looking for work at age 75, if you don't mind me asking? And she said, Social Security barely pays for my rent. Let's think about it. At age 75. And she had a great career. She had a good job. That was my second wake-up call. I said, oh my God, is this what I will have to do when I'm 75? No. That's when I aggressively laid out the short-term strategy and the long-term strategy. You saw those slides earlier. And I initiated my second life plan. 2009, what can I say? That's where I am. And here we are in 2024. And I'm so glad that I had this opportunity to share my life journey and give you some ideas on what you can do. I'm open for some questions if you have any.
Well, Ray, that was fantastic. Really, really excellent job there. I think it's what I really like about this presentation of yours today is that it offers it really fulfills a lot of the mission statement that we have at Exemplar Global, which is to support people in the auditing space along their career journey
Right.
and really help them with becoming a professional, getting the most out of their career. But also what you're talking about is another dimension of that, which is a very personal dimension of financial freedom, which I think is
Correct.
really important as well.
Correct.
So
Correct.
thank you for doing that. I had a quick question for you,
Yeah.
if you don't mind. So I wanted to ask you if you kind of can talk a little bit about some of mistakes maybe that you see young people or anybody really in their career making, and what are some of the ways of maybe overcoming those mistakes?
Mistake number one. I have a long list, so I'll just share the top two or three that I see people making. Mistake number one: relying on your company to pay for your certification is one of the biggest mistakes you will make. Get your certifications and get them early in life. Mistake number two. I mean, even if you have to pay from your pocket, pay for it. I know quality technicians, they qualified as CQEs, and they had a $20, $30, $40,000 jump in their salaries in a very short time. And those are proofs that I have in front of my eyes. I have seen that happen. I went through Six Sigma Black Belt, and I also got lead auditor certifications. The Six Sigma Black Belt put me in a very different orbit from a financial standpoint. I paid for it. I struggled. I studied hard. And then the lead auditor certifications put me yet in another financial orbit, because now I was not totally relying on my Six Sigma skills. The auditing business actually took off, and it took off in a very beautiful way. My company ended up doing more than 600 audits in the last 5 years. Just think about that. Anyway, second mistake, not finding a mentor or being afraid to approach a mentor. Please, if one door doesn't open, try another mentor. But make sure you get a mentor, and get a mentor early in life. And that's what Lee Nguyen was saying. Okay, mistake number three. Instead of buying very expensive assets for the sake of pleasure and entertainment, I'm not against pleasure or entertainment, okay? Don't get me wrong. But I firmly believe that you have to earn it. If you can't pay for it, you are not buying it. That's my philosophy. And look at what you are buying. Is it going to appreciate or is it going to depreciate? And what is that going to do to your plan? So if you don't have a plan, then you end up buying those assets and they depreciate over time and they chew up your money. What happened to your plan? Did you even have a plan? And that was mistake number four, is people don't plan. So those are the four big ones that that I can share with you. I think I answered your question, did I?
You did. Great,
Okay.
great
Yeah.
work there. Thank you.
Mhm.
And I wanted to encourage those out there to write us with questions. You see Ray's email address is there. You can write Ray directly or look him up on LinkedIn. The next slide has an email address where you can write us as well at Exemplar Global at info@exemplarglobal.org. And you can see, I don't think you can see it on the screen there, but you can write us again at info@exemplarglobal.org if you have questions and you want to kind of learn a little bit more about about this presentation or any of the presentations that we have here at the Expo. Ray, great job. Thank you for that. I wish we had more time. We just really barely scratched the surface of this topic, but really appreciate you presenting it for us. I think our viewers got a lot out of it as well. So thank you for doing that.
Sure. I look forward to hearing from you and from your viewers also.
I think you will definitely. So thank you
Thanks for the
again.
opportunity. Yeah.
Of course. And for all of you watching, thank you for joining us as well. You can earn CPD for watching this session, as with all of the sessions here at our Expo. So check that out. You can find that right here on our homepage, on the page for this presentation. And check out all the other presentations we have here at the Expo. You'll see them on our homepage. We have about a dozen of them for you. So check them all out and let us know what you think. So Ray Chowdhury, thanks again for joining us. Thank you all again for being there. And we'll see you at another session here at Exemplar Global's Excellence in Auditing Expo 2024.